you looking for affordable office space in Marion? The professional building located at 685 Delaware Avenue is the place for you. For more information, call 740-383-6803. Office space is now available. Again, telephone number 740-383-6803.
This is Scott Spears, and today is a special day because our guest's life changed forever 2 years ago on this date, January 4th, 2011. The man with the golden voice, Ted Williams' video standing on a corner homeless went viral, and the rest, as they say, is history. Today we're going to look back on the last 2 years with Ted, and we'll also be joined by Ted's attorney and friend, Bret. So great to have him back here. He's been a guest many times over the last year. Ted Williams. Ted, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you, Scott, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, 2013.
That's right.
Ted, it's January 4th. What's today feel like? What's today mean to you?
Well, it means that I've had 2 years to think about a lot of things and where I'd like to go for the next 2 years. And I've had a lot of things resolved and issues that I was up against, and now they're all gone, and so now I can start new.
2 years ago today, January 4th, 2011, where were you?
I was standing on the corner of I-71 and Hudson.
And where were you in your life at that point?
Probably at the lowest part of my life. And I was drug addicted. I was homeless. I was hungry. I was just every bit of mentally gone. No hope, no nothing.
Ted, this word gets associated with you so much, and homelessness. And I never hear it fully described. What is it like to be homeless for somebody who is not or never been?
I like to say that homelessness is not who you are, it's what you are. And sometimes you can be in a great frame of mind being homeless, it's depending on where your attitude is, what's going on with you during your homelessness. But to be homeless, it's really probably not the most greatest thing in the world to own up to. You don't like to tell people, I'm homeless. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not the best feeling in the world to be homeless.
Ted, it's kind of an interesting story because people know you were in radio at one point in your life. Then the homelessness came, and then the viral video, and here you are. Certainly, I think, bigger than you ever were before.
Yes, absolutely.
At what point did the life turn in such a way where you no longer had a roof over your head?
1993. 1993, I'd separated from my children's mother, and so I didn't have nowhere to go. I was a very codependent person at that time. Relationships were very important to me, and not to have a relationship and not to have a place to live just took me to the pits of psychologically I was messed up. So I just went to the nearest shelter. I went to the nearest Friends of the Homeless in Columbus, Ohio, and they helped me. They gave me certain support groups to find out where I could get some help for clothing and all kind of things. The drug addiction, I went to the SNP program, the Solutions and Possibility program. I was trying to address sobriety back then, with the wrong notions of getting my girlfriend back, getting my family back, getting my job back, but I didn't get clean for myself.
From 93 to 2011, 18 years, you were literally homeless. Does it become what you are, who you are? Do you think about the day when you can get back to work? Did you apply for jobs in that period? What was that 18-year period like?
I had accumulated a big criminal record, so I pretty much didn't trust the fact that I was going to be successful at gaining some kind of employment, whether it was in radio or anywhere else. So I just applied myself just to get a job. I worked all my life. I went to McDonald's, Burger King. I mean, I was the voice of Burger King for a while, Thanks for coming. Would you like fries with that? That kind of thing. So I had a great time, Customers really looked forward to coming through on my shift, And so that was it. I was okay with that.
Before we get away from this, I know one time we did a radio interview, and I kind of want to recapture that. Homelessness, what do you eat? Where do you sleep? How does that all work?
I want to say wherever I laid my hat was my home. I mean, if it was under a bridge at that particular night and I didn't have any money and I was on my last $20 piece of crack, that's where I laid my head. If I went through car lots, checked doors, see if they were open. If in fact they were open, I'd sleep in an in a car, wake up in time before the employees came. Bill Swad was my lot of choice. And then I lived out. I actually Chi-Chi's out on Bryce Road, Bryce and 70. They had, they didn't have the Chi-Chi's anymore, so I slept under the awning and made little coffee tables, and I stole bed sheets and bedding from the various hotels in that area, from the maids' carts, and made a home. Out in the woods the same way until I ran into those deer, and I wasn't too fond of that. I look up and there's two big eyes looking at me and going, I was gone. I left my woman and everything.
How do you go day to day in a life like that? Food-wise, it must just be draining.
Oh yeah. I've actually eaten food. I always had this concept about Vietnam. If those kids over there are starving, who am I to feel better than and not eat some scraps? So I would go and find sandwiches in the garbage can that were wrapped, that some people would be in McDonald's or whatever, and they'd wrap their sandwich, and I would eat it. Yeah, and then I'd go to soup kitchens and sandwich lines and all kind of things in Columbus that they had. Wherever there was food, I had a street card that I would find out what time they were feeding at what particular soup kitchen or whatever, and then I was stealing food. I'd go into Big Bear at the time and grab packs of bologna and bread and walk down the aisles, make a couple sandwiches, throw them in my pocket, walk out. Replacement meals throughout the city, disguise myself, my voice or whatever, and tell them that I was there earlier and I didn't like my meal, can I get a replacement? They would do that. So, it was rough.
And this was the life until January 4th, 2011.
That's correct.
Let's look at the footage.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
Here we go. January 4th, 2011.
There are often homeless people asking for change from freeway exit ramps. Recently, there's
Okay.
this guy with an interesting sign at I-71 in Hudson Street. His handwritten sign says he has the God-given gift of a great voice. Hey, I'm gonna make you work for your dollar. Say something with that great radio voice.
When you're listening to nothing but the best of oldies, you're listening to Magic 98.9. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. And we'll be back with more right after these words. And don't forget, tomorrow morning is your chance to win a pair of tickets to see this man live in concert. Thank you so much. Well, when I was 14 years old, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. When I was 14, I kind of listened to one of our area radio announcers. And I went as a field trip to go meet the guy, and he looked nothing like what he sounded like. So I asked him about that, and he said to me, listen, radio is defined theater of mind. And so when he said theater of mind, I just said, well, hey, I can't be an actor, I can't be an on-air personality, but the voice just became something of a development over years, and I went to school for it. And then alcohol and drugs and a few other things became part of my life. I got 2 years clean, and I'm trying hard to get back, and hopefully somebody from one of these television or radio will say, I need voiceover, or I need something. So, I'm hoping one day, watch Family Guy, weeknights at 7:30 on Fox 28. Anything, but that's what it is. And I love radio.
Yeah.
And now a famous bit of footage.
2 years clean. That every time I hear that, I'm like, it scares me. But only because Doral Chenoweth was so kind, and I thought he was going to give me more money if I said I was clean.
So that was the reason.
Yeah.
Ted, I remember at the time, and I think it was Howard Stern, and if I'm wrong about that, I'm sure somebody will correct me. But I think somebody went on their show at that time, right after this video surfaced nationally, and said that this has to be maybe a little bit of a scam because you sounded good. You sounded very lucid. You knew your story. this is why I wanted to go into radio. It's a great story, a theater of mine.
Yes.
Was that always with you? Did you always want to get back to that? Is it been a part of you?
Yes, yes, yes. Ever since I was 14 and had that trip, you know, I wanted to get into radio. I walked around the house and interviewed my mother, and, you know, I just had fun with it. Yeah.
Bret, obviously you were not Ted's attorney at that time. Where were you January 4th, 2011, 2 years ago today, when you saw that footage?
I like everybody in America, especially Columbus, Ohio. I was at home watching it, and thinking this is an incredible story. I mean, this is really. I mean, I was really, even though I didn't know Ted at the time, I think I was like a lot of people rooting for him and very, very, at the same time concerned about him, because, you know, you look at him and you'd think, I mean, how's he going to handle this? And very much thought like Matt Lauer did when he said to Ted on the air, you know, I've got real concerns whether you can handle this or not.
Was it interesting that it was happening in your city? Because that's what I always found, you know, 45 minutes up the road here.
It was, and I had a lot of people, because my practice is nationally based. I had a lot of friends from around the country talk to me about it, and ask me, hey, that homeless guy, he's from Columbus, Ohio. I mean, it really was interesting to have people around the country talk about it. So Ted added a little bit of flavor to Columbus, Ohio.
He absolutely did 2 years ago today. Ted, I've never experienced this. I don't know if Bret has or anybody else here. How do you go from total obscurity, living on the street, to worldwide, certainly out throughout the American United States, Canada, fame? What's that feel like? And like
It feels fantastic. It feels really fantastic. And what's more fantastic, and let it be said, is that early on, as you mentioned, I wasn't able to take a lot of things the way they were presented to me. I didn't know what I was doing. I was signing things that I had no idea about. And I have faith in God, and I prayed that something would change. And believe it or not, he led me to Bret Adams. And since then, it's been phenomenal success.
And I want to get to that story as we go along, because I want to talk a little bit about how this relationship started, because I know it's been a great one for Ted, certainly. But I want to talk about a few other things. In the beginning, we kept hearing, Ted, that you were getting all these job offers. I remember, obviously, the Kraft one, which is you're still today.
Yes.
I remember there were things about the Cavaliers. That was a big one that had presented itself that people talked about. I remember MSNBC, they said it asked you to do some voiceovers. Some insurance companies. I remember there were a lot of people just really, what happened there? Because for a while after that, we didn't see you for a while, certainly after Dr. Phil.
Right. Well, I did go into treatment and then fell off the radar. Thank goodness for Charlie Sheen and Lindsay Lohan, who pretty much kept me under radar, so to speak. But I went to Dr. Phil, and I was being poorly managed, you know, by a group of people, not just one person, but a group of people. And Dr. Phil was a little fed up with me, and that's when I came to meet this man right here. And that was around May, April, May. I wasn't doing very well, you know, addiction-wise, nor was I fielding any great opportunities because of the way things were handled, management-wise.
As far as those jobs that presented themselves early that we, the public, heard about, were you hearing about them, the Cavs job? Were things being presented to you?
No. There was a lot of things that hadn't been offered to me, verbatim or anything. They were just things that were being fielded by other people, and they kept a lot of the things undercover. As a matter of fact, there were monies that were allocated that were taken as a result of some of those opportunities. So, and I had no knowledge of. I went to treatment, and the first time, and there was so much different, things happening that I had no knowledge of.
When you look back at that first 2 to 3 week period, the end of January 2011, what do you feel was the biggest mistake you made?
Not getting an attorney early on, not getting possibly Bret Adams, or not getting the idea that I needed an attorney. I thought the people that were with me at the time could do everything because of their previous experience in music promotion and so forth. I thought they had that pretty much handled, and I didn't know. People from time to time, man, you need to get you a lawyer, man. You need to get you a lawyer. Till I've heard it so much that I just prayed for it. And I happened to run into an old attorney friend of mine who helped me out in many criminal cases that I've had. And he said he wasn't in that line of work, but he said, give me by the end of the day and I'll have somebody for you. And I called him, anxiously, hey, did you get anybody? Yeah, there's a Bret Adams. Does that name ring a bell? No, sir. Well, Bret's not the type of attorney that's going to chase you down. You have to call Bret. Bret's not going to call you. I jumped on that phone quick. I did.
Bret, when you got that phone call, what did you think?
Well, I was actually excited to get the phone call because I really thought I could help Ted, and I had watched what happened, and representing some other people had told me that he might not had the best guidance at that point. I'd actually heard some of the stories. Ted had been in and out of rehab, and we sat down and remember we met at the Starbucks in Bexley, and Ted was very, very personable, great guy to talk to, but I knew something was wrong at the time because Ted was still using. And it took me probably 2-3 weeks for me to get into his confidence where I could really forcefully say to him, Ted, I'm not going to represent you if you're still using. You've got to make a decision here. You've either got to go back to rehab and get clean, because I'm not going to stick my neck out here and follow up on these opportunities only to have you fail. And to his credit, he committed to the full 90-day program at the Origins Recovery Center in Texas, and that was all Ted. That wasn't. He made the decision. He gives me a lot of credit, which I really appreciate. But he's the ultimate person to make his own decisions about sobriety.
When you started to look at his business opportunities and what had happened and what might have happened, what could have happened. This is May. January was the big radar shot where Ted became known nationally. What did you think when you looked at his business?
Well, first of all, I was very disappointed because there were a lot of opportunities that were simply missed. There were phone calls that weren't returned. There were opportunities with MSNBC that were gone. They were just gone. I couldn't even fix a lot of those relationships. I was able to fix the Kraft relationship and some other things that had fallen off the radar, and Ted had lost a little bit. There was some people second guessing and questioning what he was really going to be able to do, and all that changed when he came out of rehab. He was ready to go, and we were able to get back in the game on a lot of these opportunities, and Kraft stepped up, and they're stepping up now with this foundation. Kraft's been fantastic. They've used him in multiple campaigns. Ted continues to do a lot of voiceover work, radio opportunities. Today, with the Today Show appearance, as always happens, we had over 100 emails in the first 3 hours of business opportunities, speaker bureaus for Ted, and it was a good business day for Ted with that piece today. The Today Show, it's national, it's international exposure. And we'll take advantage of those. This was a good day for Ted Williams from a business standpoint.
Is there anything, and I know we're just hours removed from it at this point, is there anything you saw today come on the radar that you said, this is really good, this could be a good fit?
Well, speakers bureaus. Two national speaker bureaus called today or followed up, and that's where Ted. I think that's where Ted's future is. It's not. He's got the great voice, but he's an inspiration to so many people. And a lot of those emails today that were not business related were stories about how he impacts people and keeps them going, because if he can stay sober with all the pressures that he has. Ted has a tremendous amount of pressure, family pressure, old friend pressure, which he handles really well considering all the outside influences. And but getting him out on the speakers tour, and especially the collegiate tour, where a lot of these people remember the viral videos, because his message is real. And I represent a lot of other people that speak, but none of them have the impact that I've seen, because he has no canned story. When Ted speaks, he's telling the truth. I mean, it's reality and it's raw. And we did an event in Chillicothe for a homeless venture a couple weeks ago, and I mean, he just mesmerized. In fact, I'm at the back of the room saying, Ted, okay, you've gone an hour, 15 minutes. we got to leave, because his stories are so real, they're so raw, and he does a really good job conveying it. Here's another misnomer about Ted. I mean, when you look at that video, people look at Ted and think, I mean, that guy, obviously you're not very smart to be in that position. Ted Williams is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. He's funny, he's humorous, he has a memory like any other person that I've ever met in my life. I mean, and he's really he's a very intellectual, well-read person that you don't get that. If you look at that video, you won't get that impression until you sit down and talk to him, or he speaks and you have the opportunity to really talk to him.
What has happened, Bret, over the last 2 years? Because I would venture to say that most people seeing that video this morning on the Today Show probably have the same two questions, and they followed for the last 2 years, and that is, what are you doing now, and are you on any kind of drugs or alcohol? That seems, you don't hear the well-read, smart, intellectual, good worker can tell a mesmerizing story, and I can vouch for that. I've been there for that. Why is it still these two questions, even in the media? And I think the Today Show has been favorable media, but even they kind of talk about it when they tell the story. This morning, one thing that caught me off guard in that piece was they talked about kind of a rocky relationship still with the family, which you just alluded to. Why are we still there?
Well, that's a tough situation for me, because Ted and I have a lot of conversations about, and I think he respects my honesty in saying this. Ted has, and I'm not an amateur psychologist, but I've witnessed this. There's a lot of guilt that Ted wasn't there for his kids, and there's this always desire to please them, and there's always requests that I think are unfair to Ted, especially monetarily. And I've said Ted many times, Ted, I have no issue telling them no, I get that role sometimes to be able to do that. But back to your main question as to, there are a lot of things that Ted can do for money that I don't think is good for his brand long term, and we've passed up on a lot of opportunities because I think Ted can be literally, and all you have to do is go through an airport with Ted and find out the people that his recognition factor, and he can be so influential, so the word I'm looking for is an inspiration to people, that if we stay on this path, he wrote the book, if we continue to do the speaking that he's doing, that's the career path beyond the voice work that I think will make him very successful down the road. But there are opportunities that Ted can be in the news that are not good for him in his career from a long-term point of view. So that's why you may not have heard. Ted can be newsworthy if he does something wrong or if he screws up, but he's not on that path anymore. He's on a very, very good path. He's on a regimen where he's taking advantage of opportunities at the VA, because Ted is a veteran, which a lot of people don't realize that he is. So this is a slow, steady plan, and I think it's working very well. I think the Today Show showed that today. It was very honest. It was very raw. He's a guy that it's day to day. I talk to him every single day,
Yes.
Except when I'm mad at him,
Which is very often. No,
but every single day, because he was on the street for so long, and it takes a while. and as Ted, and I will share this, Ted, which you might not be happy about, but he says that it's going to take me a little while to get the ghetto out of him, but it's working. I mean, it's working. He's making good decisions. He's making very, very good decisions, and that's what it takes. I mean, it's not an overnight turnaround, but he's on a great path. He's doing a great job.
What's something you passed on that wouldn't have fit Ted's image, brand?
Oh, I mean, there's email requests or phone call requests every day to do appearances. I mean, casinos. I don't want him in a casino. You know, we turn down opportunities for personal appearances for him to be at a casino. That's not what the people that are looking up to him want to see Ted Williams in a casino. Now, I can tell you, Ted's not a gambler. But again, branding's about image, and you don't want to see him trotting through a casino, whether he gambles or not. It's a bad situation. So there are a lot of those smaller things that I don't want to see him get involved in, and he doesn't need to financially. That's I think that's probably the most glaring one that you'd stay away from, and there's monetary opportunities there.
Ted, when you hear Bret talk about, certainly one of those things I think was the relationship with your family.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think when he says those?
He's absolutely right. It took me a while to realize it, but a lot of times Bret has said some things that take a while for it to settle in. But he's absolutely right. I did have a guilt feeling about a lot of things. I've abandoned my children very young, and I felt like God had given me this blessing to give back, But Bret says you're never going to have nothing if you don't save. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what he's trying to do now, is to get me to save. Because he'll give me money, and I'll end up giving it to my kids for whatever reasons they need. Or I'll homeless people, or I'll just make sure I spend it all. I don't have no way of holding on to money, because as he mentioned on the way up here, Scott, he said to me, he said, Ted, I realize that you're so used to getting money and spending it as soon as you get it over a period of years, that it's going to take just as long for you to get into the right way of saving money, investing money, seeing your money, not just giving it away.
I've got a great Ted story of giving away, because the guy, he is so generous that if he had $500 in his pocket, and we were out on the street. Now, New York is the perfect example. We were there for the book tour, and we got off the plane, and I give want money in his pocket, give him $100, and we walk outside the hotel. We checked in, and I said, Ted, how much money you got? And he had literally given two homeless people, not $1 or $2 that he got on the street, but he's handed them $20 bills, and which just shows his character of what he would do, and he did that even when he was homeless, and you'll read that in his book, where he talks about even when he didn't have anything, he'd share it with other homeless people, and that's what he does here. And if he did have a large sum of money, he would give it away. He literally would give it away, not even to be asked for it, which he's unfortunately asked for it sometimes, but he would give it away.
I'm learning.
The last 2 years, Ted, it's a long period to encompass. What's the highlight for you? What's the moment you remember the best, enjoyed the most?
Having a place to live, my condominium that I live at, that's my best. Having reliable transportation for Kathleen, and meeting Matt Lauer. I have to say that. That's the biggest thing, Meeting Matt Lauer to me was like meeting Brian Gumbel, but Matt Lauer, man, the epitome of news journalism.
Why is it him?
He's so reliable of a source of information. He just sounds so believable, so home-like, and that's the way I want to be. And David Letterman, I'm still going to meet David Letterman. Now, those are my two iconic. What can you say? I don't want to say idols. That's a bad word for me. But they're just so iconic, man, to my heart. David Letterman, he wasn't passed the torch by Johnny, but he has that Johnny persona that if you made it on the David Letterman show, you've made it. Like Johnny, if you made it to Johnny's show, you've made it. You don't get that same that same sense of feeling with Jimmy Kimmel or Jay Leno or nothing. David Letterman is like, you've arrived, And that's how I feel about Matt Lauer. If I can't get up in the morning and listen to Matt Lauer in the morning, then I don't have no news credibility, Like, I like Larry King, too,
We'll send this tape to Letterman. See what happens.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad you said that, Ted, because you've been on the show Radio and Television with me probably 5 or 6 times in the last year.
Yes, sir.
And I have one bit of footage. You were on, I believe it was this past October. I'm going to play it for you. And we showed you the tape of you doing the intro on the Today Show. You actually had the jacket on that you wore that day, January 4th, 2011, in this clip.
Okay.
But this is such a powerful clip. So many people have commented on this. I'm going to play it for you again.
Okay.
Take you back in time on this program.
Okay.
That we talked about the bidding war with your mother, which was
Yeah,
crazy.
that was outrageous.
But you made it to the Today Show, and that morning you
Yes.
did the announcing.
Live from Studio 1A in Rockville. Oh, you're going to show
Let's
me
go
that?
to it. Let's go to it.
Why did I think you were going to do that after I said
The man with the golden pipes. 2 days ago, Ted Williams was homeless. Now, thanks to this viral video and his amazing voice, the job offers are pouring in. And he's even helping us out today, Thursday, January 6th, 2011.
From NBC News, this is Today with Matt Lauer and Meredith Vieira. Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And welcome today on this Thursday morning, except for the fact he gets the order of the names wrong. I thought Ted Williams did a great job.
That wasn't his fault.
Good.
That's the way it was on the script. You need proof that life in this country can change overnight. Look no further than Ted Williams a couple of days ago on the streets of Columbus, Ohio, asking for money from strangers. He said he had a God-given gift, and you know what? He does.
He sure does.
He's on our couch this morning. We're going to get to talk to that man.
And
in just
so
a
many
little
people
while.
have said, everybody deserves a second chance. You meet
right.
this guy, and this is somebody who sure does. It's a great moment. Actually, there was a nice moment in the audio booth when you came in to meet Ted.
He
for the
was
first time.
recording.
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, man, what a class act, man. He's the best, man. His smile and everything's so genuine. Just like I thought it would be, man. God, thank you, Jesus.
All right. Who was he talking
I don't know.
about?
I have no idea. It's a little delusional there.
Oh, that's nice for our guest. That's good. Ted, I'll be doing the interview. Don't worry about it.
You became emotional on that one.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Man, meeting Matt Lauer, I might get emotional now, but meeting Matt Lauer was like God had answered a prayer of mine, like specifically. You know how you might pray for everybody and prayers get answered and you never really can put a nail on one to say, hey, my prayer's been answered. But that was a prayer that I had really I prayed one day that I would possibly do the opening for the Today Show. I really did. I'm telling you, Scott, from the heart. I really did pray, could I possibly do an opening for a show or a night? I used to always try to, excuse me, I'm sorry, man.
No, it's fine. I mean, my goodness, and how well you did it. I mean, it was amazing.
It was like God, gave me that shot, man. And it was like a dream come true, a blessing, a prayer answered. And I really enjoyed that because it was just 2 days before this, Scott. I was laying on a floor, and I was watching the Today Show, and I was just doing what I do normally when I hear that the other VO's voice, and I would say live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza. And my girlfriend Kathy, who's here today, she said, "Oh, stop all of that. It's never gonna happen. Those are dreams, pipe dreams, and all." And 2 days later, I was doing it. I couldn't believe it.
It happened.
It was like, wow.
I tell you, Ted, looking back at that footage, that is one of my favorite moments on this show with anybody because it was so real and so raw. Why does that bring out such emotion for you?
Man, it was like I went. It's like what is it, Dorothy? When the house comes in and she wakes up and she's in Oz. That's the way I felt. It's got to be. I mean, Scott. 1 minute I'm standing. 2 years ago today, I'm standing on that corner, and then the very next day I'm live from the studio. You know, oh my God, I don't know how to explain it to you.
But
It's very emotional to me.
I could see it was.
Yeah, Meredith Vieira and Al Roker and Ann Curry. I mean, come on, it doesn't get any better than that.
Bret, I don't know if you saw that footage. When you see that, what's it make you think?
Well, I know how Ted is. I know how emotional he is. I've seen that. I've seen that before. I've seen it live in speeches. You can't fake that. You can't fake it every single time that he's out there. And I've seen it, and I love the audience to see it, because that's Ted, and that's real, and he's very very spiritual, and he really appreciates the gift that he has, and to see him share like that, it's pretty amazing every time. Every time I see it, I get a little goosebumps, and I've seen a lot.
Yeah, it's easy to get that way. Ted, if I came to you today and said, "What is your job?" What would you say?
Independent voiceover contractor and speaker.
We know now that some offers have come in from speakers bureaus. That's great. Where do you want to be?
In 2 years, I'd like to have my own radio show syndicated on someone, whether it's iHeart, whether it's nationwide, Radio 1. I want a syndicated radio program.
So that's still in your blood?
Yes.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Bret, do you think it's a possibility?
Absolutely. And that's part of the plan. That's part of his plan to get back into radio. We're talking to someone. We don't have the deal totally complete yet, but I think you'll read about that here soon, and have his own show. That's what he did. He was very, very successful doing it in the past. The advantage he has now is he can get these national guests because they know who he is. And I can tell you just from the bookstore, NBC was having Ted. You remember when we were in New York, and the NBC had a premiere of all their shows. There were people, major Hollywood stars, that were yelling across the street to Ted. In fact, and I can't recall his name, but the star of Weeds, came across 53rd, came across the street to meet Ted Williams, to take a picture with Ted Williams. I mean, it was incredible. So he has that built-in advantage for the name recognition, to be able to get guests that a lot of radio hosts.
And I'm going to have you on my show.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Bret, one other thing I want to ask you is, if you had to describe Ted to somebody, just flat out, Ted as a person, what would you say? And you get to be for this. Yeah, you get to be here for this, Ted.
Okay.
One word? Or
give me one word. You can comment a little bit if you like.
We'll be back with more of Bret's comment right after these words. No.
Interesting.
That's good.
Interesting. Very normal, outside of what a lot of people see. He's a great guy. He'll give the shirt off his back to anybody. In fact, too much. He is so sociable, so friendly, so outgoing, so embracing, so loving. Loving, actually, if I had to go back, it would probably be a loving human being. A loving human being.
We talk about the voice all the time. What's the greatest attribute of this man?
I think we've seen it. We're going to see it in a big way. I think it's him giving back. I mean, him using the fame that he achieved to give back. I mean, his Ted Williams Project and Kraft made a major commitment to his foundation, and he often talks about. And I've learned a lot. Here's the other thing too. I've really learned a lot from Ted. Not only about addiction and homelessness, but what homeless people need. which is socks, which I never thought of. Never
Yes.
occurred to me.
I'm on a socks campaign.
He's on a
We
sock
talked about that, yes.
and mattress, because you've got bed bugs in homeless shelters. And the first commitment when we do get the Kraft money, he represented this to Kraft, is a mattress program for all the homeless shelters in Columbus. And there's going to be socks on every homeless.
Yes, yes.
Every homeless person is going to have six
Brand new
pairs of socks.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, now here's the big
Oh,
question.
we'll wrap up now.
No, with
I'm sorry.
him sitting there, biggest
Okay.
question, biggest flaw.
I think he knows what it is. It's making commitments that he doesn't always keep.
Right.
Not from appearance. He's never missed a gig. He's never missed. It's commitments to other people as simple as, I'm going to call you back, or telling a family member that he's going to come and see them. It's the commitments not to work, because he's unbelievably reliable at work, but it's the outside commitments, and I think that's part of his past and part of the drug addiction and abuse, in terms of saying anything to please somebody. And if a relative says, Ted, come over, I've got somebody over, Ted's natural instinct from prior conduct is, yes, I'll be there, when he knows he might not be able to make that commitment. But I will tell you, it is getting exponentially better, because I think he's got my wrath of it so many times that
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Bret, and I don't want to get into dollars and cents here, so this is not a question about that. But if we would look at the last 2 years, at what Ted's been offered, and what people, whatever the management was at the time, whatever went through, what do you think has been lost, and are those opportunities, not necessarily the job itself, but the ability to make that money? Because when you're hot, and the money's there. Is there an ability to do that?
It is. The ability will come back. I mean, there has been a lot of money that's been left on the table. I think it'll come back as Ted does more speaking. I think the speaking career naturally gets more opportunities. And don't forget, Ted's actually in a couple of documentaries now. We've been approached by a variety of screenwriters for a movie. We actually did a reality show pilot. So he's going to have those opportunities to be back out there again. So I think monetarily that he'll be back there. But there was not only the monetary opportunities lost, but we had to settle some litigation. He was in a bad situation of getting involved with people that he shouldn't have gotten involved with, and signing contracts. And we actually initiated a lawsuit. We have a confidentiality order, but we initiated a lawsuit with a group, and it's often very expensive to fight litigation out of state, and some of his earnings had to go to address those issues. But financially, if Ted maintains his sobriety, does what he is continuing to do, and getting better every day with his interpersonal relationships, he will do very, very well financially. There's not an issue of him doing well financially.
January 4th, 2013, where we sit today, Ted, are you well off financially?
Let's just say my bills are paid.
There you go.
My bills are paid.
And beyond that, you think there can be rekindling of this past history?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. Penguin has an opportunity for another book. He has the movie opportunity. And I think when people see, when there's a track record of success with his speaking tour, that the demand will be there for more opportunities at a greater monetary fee once people see that. So I have no worries about his financial future.
I don't like talking financials, but I think you probably both realize there is a belief in maybe it's an urban myth right now, that Ted Williams is a very rich man. Is that more truth than not true?
Well, let me address that. Ted has he's made money. He's earned money. some of the problems have been in addressing previous financial commitments for some people that got in his pocket early. And he's addressed those. Those are past. He won't have those issues. He won't have those issues again. And he's learned somewhat of a hard way. He's learned not to give his money away, and not to have people that ask him for money to automatically say yes. And that's not his role. I mean, Ted's role is not to be a financial benefactor or a bank to family or immediate family or friends that treat him differently now than they did when he was on the street. So he's going to do fine. He's going to do fine.
Very nice. Ted, if this had not happened, if 2 years ago today, I was thinking about it this afternoon. There were a lot of variables up in the air that had to happen to make that work. Doral had to shoot the footage. The footage had to make it to the website. It had to have been picked up by major news organizations. So many things had to have the moons had to align perfectly for that to happen the way it did. If it didn't, where would you be today?
Still probably on that corner waiting for someone to watch Family Guy. No, I'm just teasing, but yeah, I don't know where I'd be, Scott. I probably wouldn't have the good graces of my mother. I wouldn't have met such a fine gentleman like Bret Adams or yourself. I certainly wouldn't be in a condominium and have a car, and you know, I wouldn't have this smile, you know. So I have a lot to be grateful for, a tremendous lot to be grateful for.
I want to throw some names at you from the last 2 years. Just, you can give me a thought, a word, whatever you like. Doral Chenoweth, for people who don't know, the man who shot the video.
Best man I've ever met.
Matt Lauer. We've talked to him a lot.
The greatest man I've ever met.
Man Crush.
Man Crush.
We've heard the thing. Yes.
Yes.
Meredith Vieira.
Lovely woman. Very, very sincere woman.
Piers Morgan.
Very from the hip kind of guy, you know. Very nice, but straight from the hip.
Maybe the man you're most aligned with, Dr. Phil.
Very, very caring person. Very caring person.
You smiled there, Bret. Why did you smile on Dr.
Well, it's been a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
But it's funny because Ted, once he got through the initial, as he refers to it, exploitation, and maybe there was a little bit of that. I can tell you from my dealings with Dr. Phil and getting Ted back into rehab and talking to him about Ted, he really, truly, and I think Ted saw this the last time we were there, had a total vested interest in Ted. It
Very
wasn't
caring.
It wasn't about him being back on the show and having ratings. I mean, we had a private conversation after the taping where he was giving me his opinion on how to handle certain people in Ted's life, and dealing with that very direct. It was very sincere. I mean, he could have, you know, the taping was done. He'd already gotten Ted. It was all over, and he took a lot of time with this afterwards, and really, I was impressed. I was impressed with what I thought his attitude was towards Ted.
You know, something interesting happened when I was preparing for this interview, Ted. We've shown lots of footage on this program, certainly since January 4th, 2011. And I'm not aware if you had seen this. This was taped by a very famous comedian, Vicki Lawrence.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Have you seen this
yes,
footage?
I have.
I want
Very,
to
very unfaithful.
Yeah, I want to play it for the audience, maybe who hasn't seen it, because it's a
Have you ever
very-
seen it?
I haven't seen it.
this?
I haven't seen it. Maybe we can sue her.
Oh,
It's
yeah. I thought about it.
Let me
And it
play
was
this.
on Dr. Phil's show, as a
Let-
matter of fact.
Did he play this? Let
Yeah.
me play. It's a very
I don't like it.
peculiar. Yeah,
Howdy do, homeless mama here. That's right, it's me. I'm hanging out here in the bushes. I've decided to be homeless because obviously that is the best way for a person to become famous in this country nowadays. So, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this stupid ass sign that I have made out to the street there, and I'm gonna wait for some bozo to drive by and hand me $1, and then I'm gonna thank him and say, God bless you. God bless you, in the sweetest, deepest voice that I can possibly pull out of my ass. And you know what? Next thing you know, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be all over the TV. I'm going to have all kinds of people asking me to represent their products. People like, I don't know, Super Polygrip or Depends. I would be a perfect spokesperson for Depends. And I'll tell you what, it's not easy out here. People don't want to give you any money because they think you're going to go get some booze or some drugs. But I'll tell you what, I need some off. Mosquitoes out here, and they're spreading that West Nile virus. I hate them little bastards. They sneak up and suck the blood out of you. They're like lawyers with wings. And could somebody please tell me how a homeless man is the perfect spokesperson for Kraft macaroni and cheese? What, is he out here in the bushes boiling his pasta? I don't think so. First of all, you're supposed to eat the stuff, not freebase it. Hell, if he'd have been drinking milk and eating some cheese all these years, that bozo might have a few of his own teeth left. I'm surprised Garnier Fruit Teeth didn't get in touch with him, because, boy, that hairdo was sure something, wasn't it? Anyway, and I love him on the Today Show, telling him how I've been watching this show for years and years. Why, way back when Jane Pauley was on the air. What the hell? I thought the man was homeless. Apparently, he's got direct TV hooked up out here in the bushes, for crying out loud. Anyway, the moral of the story is, children, you don't need to go to school. You don't need to study and get an internship and work your way up from the bottom and work hard to get to the top. No, just get your ass out there on the street. Next thing you know, you'll get to meet Kobe Bryant. I would like to meet Kobe Bryant. And I'll tell you what, Kobe, you get a hug from me, I guarantee you I'm going to smell a hell of a lot better than that piece of junk, because I will have taken my Calgon bath. Another product for which I would be perfectly suited to be a spokesperson. Oh, kiss my ass!
There, and I
She gets worse.
Well, I was nervous about showing that, Ted, but I don't think that puts her in a good light for anybody who sees it. It's very
Well, here's the way I look at it. I mean, Vicki Lawrence, she's a has-been. I mean, if that's her way to get some attention, it's pathetic. It's a real negative light on the homelessness and the entire issue. And I've never seen it, which might indicate that not a lot of people have seen it. But I think it's a reflection on her character. It is pretty unbelievable. Yeah. But to me, you know, she's fell out of the limelight. Maybe that was a way for her to get back in the game to belittle somebody else.
You know, it was interesting to me because, I mean, people have spoofed.
Yeah. Oh, yes, and I take every one of them in stride. I love them.
But this scene,
that was just personal.
From a lady who at one point had, I mean, she's an Emmy winner. She's done some stuff that is counted. When you see that, I know it didn't make you very happy.
No.
What do you think when you see somebody who maybe you watched as a child doing something like that?
Well, first of all, you know, she's as old as dirt. You know, I remember her back in World War II. You know, Vicki doesn't wear her underwear. No,
I don't know. You know, Vicki Lawrence, I love her to death. You know, as far as her talent, her gifts, and the way her and Carol did the show well. And all, you know, and for what it's worth, I just thought that was just personal. And that for Dr. Phil to piggyback that on one of his segments, that was one of the reasons why I couldn't stand him in the beginning. So you said Dr. Phil. Let me say he's a very caring person at all, but it took a lot. He took a lot to grow on me. It took a lot for Dr. Phil to grow on me. Now, one word you haven't said, and I'm supposed to give you a reaction or whatever, and I'm going to see if you do it. Do you have any more? That we can move on. Names.
No, I don't have another name.
Okay, I want to do one.
Do a name.
Mac and cheese.
Okay. Mac and cheese.
Kraft. I love them. I love macaroni and cheese. I love the Kraft macaroni and cheese. And Scott, let it be said, they didn't give me a first chance, a second chance, or a third. They gave me a simple chance to prove myself. And that is my commitment, is to prove what they have deemed worthy of me. And that is to help the homeless and the hungry and probably stop up the 614 with mac and cheese. But I love Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Do you trust people, Ted?
I'm having I trust this man and I trust my girlfriend. Of course, I trust your expertise in radio and television, but I don't have any friends. I don't trust. One of my dearest friends, you know, kind of fell by the wayside, and I don't care to mention names, but, you know.
Is that because of celebrity? Is that because of, what's the reason?
Well, everybody just has a hidden agenda in their association with me. I don't know. Now it's almost like What do you want? You know what I mean? Like, hi Ted, how you doing? Hey, listen, people are coming up with marketing ideas. They're coming up with all kind of T-shirt slogans. What I could do better, what I could do more of, what I could do less. Like Bret said, some of those aren't brand. He's showing me the word brand, and you know, I have people telling me, man, there's a porn website that would love to have me saying booty tag, you know, or you know. Those kind of things that people are really ready to pay money to have me do. But thank God I got Bret, and so that's I don't know what people's motives are for wanting to be my friend.
We're down to the back 5 minutes here, and this has been a fascinating hour. I really do believe we've got a lot of fun, and I thank you, Bret, for coming. It's been fun to have you
Thanks
here.
for having me.
Due
Thanks.
to a connection here, but I want to shoot a few more questions out here before we get out. What do you want to accomplish before you leave this planet, Ted? Which I'm sure is going to be a lot of years. Your mother's in her 90s, so I think we have you for a while.
Yeah.
What do you want to accomplish?
I'd like to make sure that my children are well taken care of, and you know, make sure I set on that path. I want to make sure that my attorney is paid in full. I want to make sure I can leave my children something, and Kathleen as well.
Ted, we've talked about demons. They talked about them on the show this morning. Are the demons better, or are the demons gone?
No, they're not gone. They surface every so often, you know, in my moods, and the way I wake up in the morning. You know, I want to address my mental health issues with my antidepressants and take them properly and as prescribed. I want to take care of that. I want to do some possible voice animation, character animation voices.
That'd be great for you.
Hi, Scott Spears. No,
But
but I want to do some of those kind of things.
I think we're in the early stages of the Ted Williams story. How do you want it to end? How do you want people 100 years from now to look back at this period in time? Because I don't think the video is going to ever go away. How do you want them to look back on your Wikipedia page, the last line to be written? How do you want that to be?
No one Scott Spears. Only Scott Spears would come up with that.
Great question.
How would a person that gave his all? Because when I was homeless, I gave my all. I even gave my God-given gift on that corner. You know, I wanted people to know who I was. You know, the guy with a God-given gift, and it was a person who gave his all.
Ted, I do consider you a friend.
Yes.
I really do. And
Well, I'm
gonna
glad.
ask you this because I wouldn't be a good journalist if I didn't, because people want to know.
Am
and
I
know
clean
you're
and
gonna-
sober?
I know, yes, and I know you'll tell me the truth.
Yes, I am.
You are.
Yes, I am.
As of today.
As of today.
Since that Dr. Phil appearance, or since you got with Bret, has there been a period where you weren't?
No, let's just say I had what they call it's a character defects that made people think that I was, that I had very terrible mood swings.
Yeah, I think the issues
Yeah.
are more they're more mental health issues, which we talk about very
Yes.
openly. I'm not violating any confidences. This is a constant theme that we talk about, and you know, the mood swings are usually an indicator, but you know, it's far more an issue of him taking the medication that he's and having a level of mental outlook every day, because Ted can go 3 days on top of the world and then have a day where, you know, he just
And you've experienced that yourself with me.
and he can hardly get out of bed.
Yeah.
But that's not an addiction issue. That is mental health issue.
Yeah.
You know, I tell him, because he has these great moments and these great days, and we go out of a speech, and you know, the next day at 4:00 in the afternoon, he'll call me, and I know what I'm dealing with. I mean, it's a very negative, down Ted, and if he was doing drugs or doing crack, one, I couldn't find him, but two, he'd be much more animated than the down Ted.
Do you have a fear of that happening, a relapse?
Oh, I mean, I have absolutely. I mean, I couldn't. You know, I talk about this with Ted every day. I mean, it is a major concern, and I've learned the Origins people. They actually made me read the big book, and a lot of things that in preparation for actually trying to help Ted, and it is one day at a time. I've learned that it is one day at a time.
Ted, a final question here, and I'm going to give you a minute to do this because I'm going to plug the book because I really do love this book.
Okay.
And there are a few books that I really love to recommend. But
I
like
love
this
you.
book. One of the most interesting things about your story, and I would only do this on this day, was your sign. The sign you had out there did not say, essentially, give me money, give me food. It said, I have a gift. I have something I can offer you. Let me offer it to you. So I thought on this day, this would be kind of interesting. I'm going to give you just a piece of cardboard, an old piece of cardboard here with a Sharpie marker, which I think we have laying here.
Okay.
If you could write a note to America for the last 2 years, what would you write?
Wow, only Scott comes up with these.
And I do want to plug this book because it's a golden voice, Ted Williams, How Faith, Hard Work, and Humility Brought Me from the Streets to Salvation. It's an amazing, amazing read. You will want to read that. It's a wonderful book. Bret, when you read this, what did you think?
Well, I read the 12 initial versions that went into it, and it's very raw. We had a lot of debate about how the book should have ended. I thought it should have been more present day, uplifting message than the negativity that it had. But that was his life, and that's what. And decision makers far more intelligent in that area than I made the decision to have it. But I didn't. I thought it was too raw. I thought it was, and then I come to find out that actually there were some stories that were left out that were even more raw.
So there we go.
So.
It's an amazing life, and like I said, the last 2 years have been something quite amazing. And I'm going to wrap it up here by saying, Ted, my goodness, every time you come on the show, it's always fun because it's honest, and I believe it's honest.
You ready?
Flip over here real quick. Flip over. Go ahead.
Here we go.
Yes.
God gave me a second chance, and he will do it for you too. Pray.
What a beautiful way to end.